Welcome to the VO School podcast, dedicated to the art, craft and business of voiceover. Each week builds upon the last to give you a comprehensive understanding of a career in VO. My name's Jamie Muffett. I'm a full-time voice talent and audio engineer, and I'll be joined by some of the industry's top professionals on both sides of the microphone to drill down and dig up the truth. Hello, welcome to the VO School podcast. If you've been following on social media, you will have seen a post a few days ago announcing that we are doing an episode where you get to read a commercial script and someone from the voiceover industry is going to assess it. And that someone is Jim Kennelly from Lotas Productions, along with Sam, who is the engineer, and myself. And I want to thank everyone who submitted. It was very, very brave of you to put yourself up for that kind of public scrutiny. Not only having someone assess your read and have to hear about it, but knowing that everyone else is going to hear it too. So massive respect to you. Also thanks to Jim and Sam for lending their time to this episode. Before we begin, please follow us on social media. You can find all of the links to our Twitter and Facebook and Instagram on our website, which is VOschoolpodcast.com. And I'm not going to waste any more time talking about any of this stuff now. I'm just going to go straight to the ad and then into our commercial reads episode.
The National Zoo. Because sometimes you just need to stroke a llama.
Instagram. Download it and start embarrassing your teenagers today.
Resolve spot and stain. Because the dog's gonna drag his butt on the carpet. He just is.
Engage the droid army with this LEGO Star Wars Republic fighter tank.
Hi, it's J. Michael Collins, and these are just a few examples of the first-class demos my team and I are producing. If you'd like to have something similar, visit jmcvoiceover.com and click on the Demo Production tab to find out more.
Okay, so today I have Jim Kennelly here, and I am at Lotas Productions in New York City. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Jamie. Glad to have you here. You're always welcome here at Lotas.
I love being here. There's a little bit of building work going on, so you'll hear the odd drilling sound, but that all adds to the atmosphere. New York City, everybody. Yes. So today we are going through the commercial reads of the, what did I call it, Fresh Feast script. But before we begin, Jim, tell me a little bit about you and what you do here so everyone can know.
No problem. Lotas Productions is a casting, directing, production facility here in New York City on beautiful 25th Street. We cast, produce, and direct voiceovers of all types on all different platforms. We connect digitally to studios all around the world, and we hire talents in New York and LA and Chicago, but we also hire talents also around the world and all across America. We really believe voiceovers has become a level playing field when it comes to casting and auditioning people and hiring people, and we get to meet new talent all the time, and it's really a fun business to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. So how long have you been here?
I've been casting and producing voiceovers in New York since the early 1980s. So wow. We go from auditioning on tape. Now we can audition talents in Europe, in Australia, in the UK, anywhere in the world.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, without further ado, I think we should get on with it because I think everyone's waiting with bated breath for this.
Sounds good.
So before we begin, I'm going to read the script and the spec because this is what hopefully we're going to learn today, how people interpret the spec and the script notes. And see what works and what doesn't. So this is the spec for a TV advert for Fresh Feast dog food. Scenes of lovable dogs creating chaos, waking their owners by bounding onto the bed, tearing apart rolls of toilet paper, stealing food, shaking mud off in the house. Give way to snuggles, affection and fun. And this is open to males and females, all ages, sympathetic, affectionate, with a sense of fun. So I think it's fairly clear idea of what we're looking at there for.
Yeah, that's a very typical spec. It's a good spec. I think it's important to look at the scene, if it is a TV spot or a video, if they do give some notes besides just the generic sympathetic, affectionate, a sense of fun. It's important for voice talent to look at everything on the page, because the writer, he or she, they put it there for a purpose, and they put it there to help you be successful.
Yeah, and these aren't just thrown in there casually, are they? These things, there'll be meetings and
Right.
back and forth with them.
Yeah, these
marketing,
are
branding
very,
people.
even though sometimes they seem redundant, you see the same direction again and again, or they point to a certain celebrity. The writer, again, he or she, they're trying to get you to communicate their idea as best as you can. So use them as clues or hints to help you be successful.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I've got. It's not a hat. It's a box
It's
with all the submissions.
It's a good-looking
here.
box. So let's see who's
So pick out the first
who
person.
comes first. We're going to have Jim Lankford.
All right, Sam.
All right, Jim.
Sam's the engineer. Do you want to play us that and then?
Yep, hang tight.
Sam also produces and directs here at Lotas Productions.
Yeah, that's Sam's voice you can hear.
Hi.
This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch, your biggest fan, and most loyal friend. So why not give him the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler-free. Fresh Feast.
All right, it's good playback. Now, Jim has a nice recording. Obviously, it's a good sounding audition. I would say he probably missed the fun part of the copy. Sympathetic was there at the front. It's okay at the top, but as he moved into the script, and obviously you're going to see, toilet paper being ripped up or people loving their dogs, he really missed that sense of fun. It just stayed kind of like one note the whole way.
What about the pace?
To me, the pace was slow. It's probably a little too much concentration on his diction and read, which slowed him down in his performance.
Yeah. I mean, you're the expert in this. This is my opinion.
Yeah,
but I completely agree. I mean, it sounded very professional.
Absolutely.
It was really sort of clear, and like you say, the recording was really good. I agree. I think probably pick up the pace a bit and maybe loosen the pronunciation a bit so that it flows a bit more naturally.
Yeah. If he was here, obviously we're always trying to find ways to communicate with talent when they audition. Because of the pressures or the deadlines, sometimes we can't get back to someone and give them a specific note. But if Jim was here, just like any of the other voices we'll listen to today, I would give them like one or two notes to adjust their read, and then, they might be on their way,
Yeah.
Especially when you deal with a casting director, he or she may know the client because they've done other jobs with them, or they may know the writer in a specific way. So even though the writer might say sympathetic, that writer means this when he or she writes sympathetic.
Yeah.
So if you have the opportunity to work with a casting director or a coach or someone like that, sometimes they can give you clues too.
Sometimes I'll have a script where the spec seems to contradict itself.
Right.
And there's a certain skill in interpreting, that.
To Jim, I would say hey, that's a great read. I know I could work with you. I like your tone, but specifically for this script, you want you loosen it up and be a little more, give it that aspect of hey, I love my dog, I love animals, and it's fun to have one.
Yeah. All right. Great job, Jim.
Great. Let's see if we
another
get
one.
Zach Ailman. Here we go, Zach.
Zach Alleman. This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch. Your biggest fan. And most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler free. Fresh Feast.
Zach's read started off really well. I thought he kind of had it going there. I liked his tone. Again, a very professional recording. But then once he got into most loyal friends, so why not give them the very best? There's no transition in the voiceover. It just sort of stayed in the same tone. And by the time it got down to the meat and fish part, I wasn't, I'm done. I'm not listening anymore.
Right.
So there has to be a turn, and again, an awareness that hey, you're going to see these dogs doing things. So somehow the line "and most loyal friend" is obviously going to be over an image of, the dog, saving the day or pulling somebody out of the water or something.
Yeah.
And so why not give them the very best? Why not? Hey, you love this guy. And my one note to Zach would be maybe a little more real, a little more natural.
Yeah. He has a nice sort of gentle, friendly voice, which I like.
Right.
Not so announcery. I think he's got quite a modern sound, would you say?
Yeah. Very much. It's a voice when I listen to voices, In the end, I may not move his audition forward to my client, but in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, I could sell this guy. Let me put him on other types of copy and give him opportunities with maybe a specific note to like, hey, keeping that chill, young, contemporary sound, but be a little smilier or something, like add something like that to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, because I know that Zach is quite early part of his career, so sort of interpreting scripts and pacing and mixing things up throughout the, having that sort of journey that you go on throughout the script, even a short one like this, is something that you pick up over time when you do a million auditions and a load of jobs.
Or you watch more and more commercials, you're more aware that you're trying to be in the industry. But and also risk a little bit. In the end, that was like a really safe read. Yeah. And if I was directing Zach in the studio, I would say like, hey man, cool top, just like take a little risk on the bottom, make it more fun. And then that small adjustment, then bang, we'd send him forward.
Yeah. We have this workout group in Philly every month, and the one thing that I say a lot in that group is that in some ways, not taking a risk is a more risky choice because, so many people, if a casting director is going to listen to 50 or 30, so many are going to do the same thing and you're just not going to get your head above the parapet,
Right.
So taking a bit of a risk and just being not going crazy and yelling into the mic, but, doing something a little different and injecting a bit of different energy or something is quite good. It was interesting what you just said a second ago about, you were talking about the loyal friend line. And you were visualizing, the dog was sort of caring
doing
for their owner or something. Like actually visualizing when you're reading these scripts and trying to play the advert or the commercial out in your head.
Right. It's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to see these images as you read them. It's not just the perfect pooch, your biggest fan.
Yeah.
You have to somehow, have a feeling about dogs or pets or someone who has a dog that loves them and then see that perfect pooch. What could be the visual for your biggest fan? And if you put these images in your mind as you audition, I think you'll see your auditions rise up. You'll hopefully be more successful in the business.
Yeah. This is a little awkward because I made this brand up. But if this was like, I don't know, what's the brand? Friskies is that a brand?
Right. Friskies is cat food.
Cat food, yeah. So go on YouTube or iSpot.tv and look at and just you get that sense of the visuals. Yeah. From a technical standpoint, Zach, I think the mic sounded great. I know you got a new NT1. It sounds awesome.
Yep.
I did hear a bit of a fan noise in the background.
Right.
But yes, the clarity of the voice sounded really good.
Yeah. But certainly that read is good enough for an audition.
Yeah.
Like, if I dug the read totally, I could send that forward, no sweat.
Well, this is actually a question I wanted to ask you. How important is audio quality when you're auditioning?
Right. For us here at Lotus, if your quality is below a standard, we really rarely send people forward. I have the responsibility, I'm being hired to funnel talent down and funnel talent onto a script to cast. And as I send these voices forward to my client, if I send them 50% of the voices or even three or four of the voices have a low quality audio in the audition, they're going to turn around and go like, well, why'd we go to Lotus? That sounds like garbage.
And what if you know that the client is coming in to record here? Does that change things or do you really need to hear it from word go rather?
No, audio quality always affects going forward, even though like I may know like, oh yeah, Bob has a bad studio, but if I get Bob in my studio and he books the job, it'll be perfect. It's hard for me to convince my client that Bob's that good without a good recording.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
All right, great, awesome.
Nice shout out to Philly, though.
Yeah.
Eagles. Let's get a woman, Linda Puff.
Linda Puff. This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch, your biggest fan, and most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler-free. Fresh Feast.
All right. Linda's got it going. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That one could definitely go forward. Maybe a little slow on the big meat, fish line, super healthy line. But you heard how she put a little more variation in each line.
Yeah.
She certainly had, it probably was a little too cutesy for me, but not as criticism. I would tell her like, chill out at the smile a little bit. Because again, you can still read this little bundle of joy, the perfect pooch, without like a big smile on your face and if it's too smiley, people see it as it's like kind of like a little campy.
Yeah.
So you might lose the audition, or not get into the next round because of that.
Yeah.
But she had the interpretation skills. You could see where she was like definitely into it. It had more energy. So
yeah.
With love, I'd say Linda would be the first one going forward.
Great. Awesome. Absolutely. I thought she did a great job. I think the 100% grain and filler-free line was a little rushed.
Right, yeah.
That's actually would be quite a big selling point, I think, for the client. So they'd probably want to, stamp that.
Right.
Particularly where they've located it right at the end.
There's also, again, that's an important point, that where certain lines are in the script, they're there for a very specific reason. It's not like they're like, oh, let's make a spot for Fresh Feast. We'll write it in 5 minutes and send it out to people.
Yeah.
By the time it gets in front of any of the talents to audition, or it comes in front of me to cast it, I know it's been through a lot of legal, it's been through a lot of discussion between the brand and the agency, or the brand and the branding companies. So you have to be aware of where they place the words and why certain words are chosen. And as you audition more and more, you start to pick up those clues.
Yeah. So I just want to read the spec again real quick, because it's been a while. So, scenes of lovable dogs creating chaos, waking their owners by bounding onto the bed, tearing apart rolls of toilet paper, stealing food, shaking off mud in the house, give way to snuggles, affection, and fun. So, for me, there was a sense of almost a comedic sense in, at least at the start of that. Yeah. And I don't hear a lot of comedy in these reads so far.
Not yet at all, yeah.
Yeah, so
no one's nailed the top.
Yeah, I would say that is something that takes some interpretation. I know it because I wrote it, but I'm not sure how clear that is from an outside perspective. But I mean, that wasn't picked up on.
Yeah. You definitely need a break on that joy. Like, this little bundle of joy is your whole world.
Yeah.
The perfect pooch, your biggest fan.
Because there's a certain irony to the perfect pooch, and they're tearing apart the house.
Yes, because everybody knows this happens with your dog. He does rip up the paper towels. He does, bring mud into the house.
Yeah.
And you forgive them of all this.
Yeah.
And then that leads you to, so why not give them the very best?
Exactly. Exactly.
Because you got to treat. Everybody needs forgiveness.
Yeah,
because that's the backstory here.
Exactly. I know it sounds crazy going to this level of detail, but you can be damn sure that the casting director is going to be going into this detail. So I think it's worth really, really analysing these things.
Yeah. Any notes from Sam?
Yeah. What did you think, Sam?
I would say along the same lines as Jim, that she would definitely be one of the first to go through. I'd also say I actually like the energy that she had in her read. Her tone could have been a little more up. She could have been a little more plucky. But it's not a bad read. No, it doesn't have the comedy, but it has personality. I would say it like that.
I think one of the interesting points, obviously, you heard me talking about being in the 1980s, starting in the voiceover casting business. Sam is a young woman that we have here working and producing and casting with us. And besides being very talented, we brought her in to have a millennial point of view when it comes to casting. Most of the people who are writers or creative directors in the industry all the time are young people. The advertising industry is a young person industry. So it's important in another level to think about, who am I communicating to? Now, Fresh Feast might be aimed at older Americans who have pets, but the person who wrote it is probably a younger person. So it's important to be mindful of millennial producers, millennial writers. And millennials in general, like authenticity. They like to be told the truth. Their value is very important to them. So some of that, in a very subtle way, should start to come into your reads every time you audition, no matter what.
Yeah, whatever the project is.
Right.
Yeah,
I think that's consistent.
Yeah. That's a great point, because sometimes you'll see something for a product that seems like it's been around forever and maybe pitched at an older generation, but like you say, the people who are actually putting the ad together
are younger.
Right.
Yeah, always younger. If a man or woman my age came into the studio, I'd be like, what are you doing here?
Right.
How'd you get through?
So appeal to millennials.
Yes, let's pick someone else.
Buy them brunch. Millennials like brunch.
They're great. They're brilliant people, and they're fun to work with. And of course, it's wonderful to work with Sam, but the young writers and producers and creative directors who we see every day here at Lotus are terrific people. They're really making some fantastic advertising.
Yeah.
Rebecca Ashley. The Rebecca Ashley.
This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch. Your biggest fan. and most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler free. Fresh feast.
All right. Well, again, Rebecca did a good job recording herself. It's probably a little too drawn out. You have to, sometimes on the spec it might say it's a 30 or it's a 60 or it's a non-broadcast piece. Obviously, it was a little slow.
Yeah.
Kind of like a little old style. It definitely didn't have the pep that you would need. And I know there were some little technical things at the bottom, that grain filler, there's a little presence there, or it tastes delicious.
Yeah.
On a tech side, that wouldn't, if I love the read, I would let that go through. I wouldn't be so worried about that. I'm not like, a madman. But the read itself didn't quite capture the spec.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I heard it too. I think really good diction, very well pronounced. Obviously wonderfully British.
Yes. So it's a good performance. It just doesn't work for this spot.
Yeah, and that's really everything, isn't it? I mean, it's all about interpreting the space.
But again, it sometimes people think, I'm not right for this, I'm not going to read. That comes up sometimes. And maybe that is the right decision. But if I sent you the script, I want you to read. If a casting director sends you a script, or your agent sends you a script, manager sends you a script, they want you to read. So give it your best shot. Get it there, because specs always change. The casting director, or someone like myself or Sam, we have many projects going on at once, and I might say Rebecca didn't make that one, but she'd be really good on this. Let's send her that. So it's important to get yourself in front of people, even just like this experience today.
Yeah.
Sending it into the VO podcast. I'm listening to everybody. I'm seeing your names. Sam's seeing your names.
Yeah.
We're looking at your files. These are important things.
And the 3 or 4 people that are going to listen to this as well.
More than that. You got family listening. How about, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to just ask you one question. How much, what is more important to you, the tone of the voice or the delivery and the mood that it generates?
I think it's both. It's not one over the other.
Yeah.
What I always say to people when they say, how do you pick, or who wins, or who goes forward? It's, Sam and I agree. It's a vibe. It's almost like a chord. You just hear it and you're like, that one's right. And even though we're taking the time right now to listen to all the read from top to bottom, as we should, when we're actually casting in studio, by the time you get through this little bundle of joy, you could be out. We make decisions because we are very busy. It's a fast-paced industry. We make decisions super fast.
Yeah.
And so it's like, Sam can attest to it. I'll play them, and I'll be like, in, out, in, out, and it's bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
So put your best read up front.
Yeah.
How about Ken Edwards?
Yes, Ken.
America's own Ken Edwards.
This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch, your biggest fan, your most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler-free. Fresh feast.
Well, all right. Well, Ken brings up an interesting thing about voiceovers. That sort of quirky, little odd voice sometimes really cuts through, and certain writers, producers, creatives dig it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, with a little direction, that could be a good read. That's sort of like quirky fun, like, isn't this great?
Yeah.
So obviously the spec sense of fun Ken had down. Maybe could have been a little more affectionate here or there, but that's what makes this a fun business, because you meet all sorts of people with all sorts of sounds. There's no one sound that people want in voiceovers. So that was a good example. I like that one. For me, that one would go for it. I'd send him, because very often we try to, obviously we're following the spec when we do our casting, but we also try to bracket the sound and bring a couple of curveballs or other ideas in, just in case the writer, he or she, has a change along the way. Like all of a sudden they're listening to auditions and the client's sitting there and the client says, how come nobody did it quirky? Or how come I don't hear any funny voices?
Yeah.
That way the writer, he or she again, could have at their hand, here's this guy Ken. He's kind of got a funny attack. Do you like this? And they might come back to us they really like this guy Ken, so do 4 or 5 guys sort of like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah, I mean, when you're listening to these, and, I was listening to these earlier today, it takes someone like Ken, just like, you just prick up your ears a little bit. You hear it, and you're like, oh, that's an interesting take. And that's really what you want in every read, if you can deliver it.
But it was more than just his voice. He also had very good interpretation. His sense of fun was definitely there. It would match, to me, that would sort of match the images in my mind. Yeah.
I could definitely hear his voice in something like this. Yeah, great job, Ken.
Cool.
That was awesome.
How about Jason Leach?
This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch. Your biggest fan and your most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler free. Fresh Feast.
Well, see, along the lines of Ken, Jason hits it.
Yeah.
And since we didn't plan that, but you hear those two in a row, actually, Jason's probably a little better than Ken.
Yeah.
If I was the creative, if this was my spot, I'd be like, well, all right, get rid of that first guy. The second guy was good. And, of course, the question is, why was Jason better than Ken? I think there's a little more youth in his voice. I think that helped him. I hear that because I've listened to so many voices. I think, if I was going to cast this spot, it's probably in the 25 to 35-year-old range, because that probably parallels the market, people who are buying pet food. I thought he should have landed a little more. He tended to do that thing where he went up all the time. It's like, it's super healthy and tastes delicious, not to mimic him or anything, but very often we hear direction like, just land on it. I know I say it all the time, like, hey, that's really great, it's cool, but like, land on loyal friend, just land on it. And most loyal friend. So why not give them the best, then do that?
I like the way he connected your biggest fan and most loyal friend as one thought.
Right, yeah.
It goes against the punctuation. You guys can't see it, but they're in two different lines here and separated by a period. But they do actually partner well together. So that was a nice little switch up, to hear that.
And that's, that's the thing that draws people to you. They're like, oh, play that guy again, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what you want. I think that parallels what we talked about, how like, take a little risk, do something a little different to make you come out of the pack.
In terms of these reads, it's interpreting and it's visualizing and imagining how this would fit, but also how much do you believe what they're saying? That's another thing. Do they sound like they're just voicing it, or do they really believe it?
Right, is it happening for them?
Yeah.
And the last two takes definitely had that going for them.
Yeah.
How about Elena Montine?
Elena Montine. This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch. Your biggest fan. And most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler free. Fresh Feast.
Elena has a very conversational, relaxed tone, which I liked a lot in the bottom. It was choppy at the bottom. It's like, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients. It didn't have flow, but she had the relaxed tone, which I liked a lot. So if I was directing Elena in session, I'd be like, hey, I like your tone. I like it, keep it where you are, but just run it together a little more. Don't be so, ba-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Change your rhythm up a little bit. But, that could work.
Picking up on an extremely tiny point in that read.
Yes.
As I like to do. That last line, it's 100% grain and filler free. She said it's 100% grain and filler free.
Yeah.
It's a tiny thing.
But it's true.
But emphasizing the 100% because it's so important.
Yeah.
I would always err on the side of the more dramatic with something like that.
That's a good point. Yeah. We always say 1. We never say 100.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say I'll give you both, but in reality, in advertising, it's 100.
Yeah.
It's never 100%. It's 100% grain and filler free.
Yeah, it's such a small thing, but I think getting into the good habit of doing something like that is probably worth it.
People, it pops out, especially if if you're listening to a lot of editions and a lot of people read the same thing wrong, you kind of end up in the that's the wrong read category.
Right.
And you don't want to be in that category.
Just those little things,
Yeah, it's subtle. David Godfrey.
This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch. Your biggest fan. And most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish,
Each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler free. Fresh Feast.
Well, good. Like you can hear David is obviously has a lot more experience.
Yep.
You can tell that right away. It's a little more professional thing. But let me throw this one to Sam. Sam, what do you think?
So I think he was really good. But do I think he kind of fits the tone of what they're looking for? I'm not sure. If it came down to it, I would probably let him go to round 1. But when it came down to cutting down some of the talents, I'd probably knock him out at some point. And I think that's mostly because he just, it's a little flat. It's like his delivery is, very pronounced, very energetic, but I feel like he doesn't fluctuate all that much in terms of his diction. And it could have helped if he was a little more playful.
Right. It kind of went to, right down the middle.
Yeah.
It was a very good read, but down the middle.
Yeah.
It didn't have a unique quality. Is that what you meant, Sam?
Yeah, it's definitely unique, but I'm not sure if it fits the best out of all of the voices that we've already sort of said yes to.
Cool.
I know that David has been around the industry for a long time.
Success.
And he's good.
Definitely.
I think there's a certain freedom of naivety in a way that when you come into this industry, and that's not meaning to be patronizing.
Right.
I hope it isn't patronizing, where you can just sort of have fun with it. And I suffer from this all the time. You can knock auditions out super easy in a super professional way. But you lose that essence of something individual, something creative, something, a sense of fun that is listed on the spec here.
Right. I think it's challenging for talents who have a lot of experience, have been in the industry a while, and who do audition all the time. And particularly audition at home all the time. It's challenging to look at each script as a unique opportunity. Like you said, all of a sudden you're successful. You've got 5, 6, 10 auditions to get through.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I feel with talents that I know very well that they go to their go-to read. Like, this is my winner read. Yeah. I've booked in this voice before. And it almost becomes a trap that you have to try to listen to how other people read. Sometimes when you go to coaching, you'll see other people read the same copy, or like we're this experience today. And I think that's very helpful for talents, that you hear how other people interpret. I know it's easy. It's helpful to me as a casting director when I cast. If we do a live audition where people are coming in, we start off with the first person reads, and the second person reads, and the third person does something like, "Hey, that was interesting," and I bring that into the fourth person's read or the fifth person's read, and so slowly, kind of a back look into auditioning. The audition is changing as it goes forward.
Yeah.
As you get through 10 people, 20 people, it changes. And so, but more to the point, a lot of people who have a lot of experience, like David does, a very successful talent, sometimes get caught in I'll just knock this out. And creatives can hear that. There wasn't really anything extra special to that guy.
And if you aren't taking group classes, if you aren't doing workouts, either in person or online, you don't really hear your read up against other reads all that much, unless you're in the room working with someone, which even that doesn't happen very much. So I think it's always worth, however long you've been in this industry, humble yourself and do a group class, work with other people, work with other talents. Actually, I was speaking with Anna Vocino in a previous episode at the end of last year with Dr. Chloe. It was the psychology episode.
Yes.
And she was saying that her agent called her up one day and said, "Your auditions are getting boring." And
but that's a great note.
And it's a tough pill to swallow. But she said, "Well, what do you mean? What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, come in and listen to your auditions, in context with all the other applications for that one project." And she said it was extremely eye-opening.
Yeah.
And if you can, obviously if you can do that, wonderful, but most people can't do that. I'm not in that position. But something like this, it can be a bit difficult to swallow, but I think you could probably get a lot from it.
Important. Lessons and coachings are very important to shake up your career.
And I don't think you ever get past that, do you?
No, no, you really don't. No one ever really arrives in voiceover that you're so good. I've arrived. I can do anything. That's, I've been in the business a long time, and some of the guys who were really the greats going back to the 80s and 90s, that was one thing they always said, hey, I never arrived. Everything's new. Yeah. Every script is new. Every client is new. And that's how they approached their business. And that was a big part of their success, too.
Yeah. And especially as the industry is constantly changing as well, you know.
Yeah, the advertising industry is always changing. Trends are always changing.
Yeah.
So you got to pay attention.
All right, let's stop yammering. Let's try and get a few more in.
Brendan McNulty.
Brendan.
This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch, your biggest fan, and most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler-free. Fresh Feast.
That's a nice read, Brendan. It has some of the energy, that sense of fun that you talked about. That's right up there in the top spec. Maybe not as affectionate and sympathetic because, you know, some of the images of the dogs are probably messing things up. Whether, you know, they wake you up or like, you know, they're tearing the rolls apart. So you might, it was a very good read, but basically just chipper the whole way through.
Yeah.
So if for whatever reason, one of the creatives is stuck on the idea like, well, you know, we really needed to seem like, aw, shucks. There was no like, aw, shucks aspect to it.
Yeah. It was, again, a very super professional read, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It just sounded really slick.
Yep.
Would it be enough to really jump out and absolutely guarantee itself in that sort of shortlist?
Well, it's super happy. You know, it would be like, well, if you want a super happy one, here it is. But again, I think they're going to look for a little more variety within the perfect pooch, your biggest fan, most loyal friend. One of those has to have that sympathetic thing or affectionate thing. Like, you know, whether it's like, you know, your biggest fan, you know, just something. You know, I'm not a talent. My reads are all corny, but I know what I'm listening for. So Brendan just stayed like almost like in one note. So again, great recording, you know, super read.
When you're sending over a bunch to a client, are you thinking about covering different bases, or are you just obsessively looking at the spec and trying to nail it on every single one?
Our first job is really to find the best reads like that. I'm not really, I know I do say we kind of bracket it a little bit, but it's really very subtle that we're bracketing. We're really just saying, hey, any one of these 12 people could win. Any one of these 12 people are great.
Right.
When that's specifically to Lotus, how I cast. It's like, hey, whoever you pick, they're all great. That's why I sent them to you.
Yeah.
And there's no one that, you know, I may think like, oh, this guy really hit it or this woman really hit it, and the client may pick someone else. But any one of the voices we send is a winner and we think can be successful on the spot. So it's more to like, hey, that's a good read than, well, I got to make sure I have enough women or I got to make sure I have enough men.
Do you ever send something over that doesn't quite match the specs, but you're like, this is just so, it just jumps out so much, I'm going to send it anyway?
That could happen. I don't think it happens a lot, but it could happen.
Right.
I wouldn't be against it.
Yeah. Well, that was a great read, Brendan. The one thing I would say is the Fresh Feast line didn't really like punch it all that hard, but in terms of the product name, but it was really good.
Because they could always pull you back.
Yeah.
You do it a little too big. They realize, okay, well, when we get in the session, we'll pull them back a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to another friend, another voice, Beverly Matthew.
Beverly.
Here we go, Beverly.
This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch, your biggest fan and most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler-free. Fresh Feast by Beverly Matthew.
All right. There we have Beverly giving us a tail slate.
Yeah.
I know Sam had a point before about auditions. What was your point, Sam? About slates?
Yeah, so this is something I've already noticed with a few of the auditions that come in so far. There is no slate on them. I understand Beverly did it towards the end. Some places might ask for that, but that's kind of, at least from what I've seen, atypical. But one thing I gotta say is, please, everybody, put a name slate at the beginning of your file. Because let's say you're not getting it through an agent. Let's say you book something through VoiceBank or Bidalgo specifically. Sometimes Bidalgo will not show your regular name. Sometimes it'll randomize it with letters and numbers. If you don't have a name slate and you didn't mark on the MP3 anywhere that would have either your initials or a name or anything they could reference, you're out. Because they're not going to spend hours trying to find, oh my god, I need to have that person on my voice. If it's too difficult to get in touch with you, you're done.
Right.
So just please be aware of that. It's critical.
there's a whole aspect of labeling your file, putting your name in the front, put the product. Sometimes the product is in the title of the audition. Otherwise, if it's your case, Jamie, we'd end up with, 20, 30 Jamie Muffet files.
Yeah.
If it didn't say Jamie Muffet Fresh Feast, Jamie Muffet, JP Morgan Chase. And nowadays you see very specific labeling instructions from people.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say, that, when you get something from your agent or from you, absolutely pay attention to all the small details, like how they want you to make. Sometimes they'll say what city you're in or what accent you have or something like that, and put that all in as per the instructions. One very small question regarding slating. This probably doesn't come up too much here because I know you do a lot of commercial work, but if you're doing video game, animation, things like that, and you're doing a character voice, do you slate in character or do you slate your normal voice?
I've seen both. Personally, I would just say my name and then go into the character, as opposed to hi, this is Jim Kennelly and I'm Nick Danger. It's kind of weird. I know some actors do it. A lot of the LA guys do that.
Yeah.
Personally, I would come in straight and then do my character. And in this case, you would just go right into hi, I'm Beverly Matthew, and bang, you go into it.
Yeah.
So Beverly's read was kind of a little, more concentration on the pronunciation of everything and not so much connecting to word pictures or the sense of fun. She had a nice voice. The audio quality wasn't as good as a number of the other spots we've heard now. So to me, right away, it'd be okay, the audio quality isn't up to standard and her read's really not on the spec, so bang, she'd be out. But again, you're able to hear her voice. She did deliver a nice read in a certain style, not the style we're looking for Fresh Feast. So I wouldn't be discouraged by that read. But, she's probably newer in the industry, needs to practice a little more and, follow along some of the tips that, Jamie and Sam and I are sharing today.
So if Beverly, let's take the recording quality out the picture just for this. If Beverly was here in the studio and she gave that read, what would your first feedback be?
My first feedback would be loosen it up.
Yeah.
Loosen up. Let's just think about making this fun, like images of dogs and people are loving them. And then I'd see where she went from there.
Yeah.
And then she'd probably maybe be 50, 60% of the way there. She probably wouldn't nail it the first time. And then I'd probably give her one more note. And at that point, I'd be okay, in or out. And I'd say something positive and then we'd go to the next person.
Yeah.
And then I'd decide later if I wanted to send her.
Yeah.
But, everybody deserves a second, third chance in a take and auditions. No one, the idea of you come in and I nailed it in one read, that's really not what this industry's about. No. It's an organic thing. You work together as a group, the talent, the director, the engineer, the client sometimes, and you put all that information together to sort of mold a script or at least deliver back, hey, here are 12 takes and 8 of them are really great. So put them up against picture, put them against music, and then start to narrow it down to hey, which one do we really want to work with?
And the thing to remember, I think, when you're a voice actor is that, a good booking ratio is 1 in 10.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
So you're going to not book the vast majority of the gigs that you go for. Yeah. So you can look at everyone as a learning opportunity. And, it's a bit of a cliche now, but your job really is to audition as opposed to book the gigs because they come along much more infrequently, the gigs.
It's great when it happens, but the work is the auditioning. Your work is really auditioning and getting yourself in front of people.
Yeah.
When it comes to just we're talking about reads today. So that's the key. All right, let me go back in the box here and get Kayla Jackson.
This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch. Your biggest fan. And most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler-free. Fresh Feast.
All right, Kayla. Again, obviously a little bit of a audio difficulty, but I know this is this is an exercise. She made it down on her phone, or so it's a little roomier, we would say. Again, the read doesn't have the flow. It doesn't have any fun. It doesn't really have a sense of fun.
Yeah.
Kayla is reading each line correctly, which obviously has value, but a very big value. But it's I'm sure she has a bigger personality than that. She's probably a lovely person.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when we're directing and we're working with people, we're trying to get you to be you. We're trying to get your real spirit to come out, because that's what connects with people. They know that's the authentic idea. A lot of times when they talk about a conversational read, they're really looking for something authentic. So I would get back to Kayla and be like, hey, just be yourself. Like, you like animals, or even if you don't like animals, just be yourself. Bring yourself to this read, because in the end, that's where you'll be successful.
Yeah. I heard a little bit of a smile in her voice, which I liked, and I liked the tone of her voice as well. I can hear that slight tension, I think you're hearing in the delivery. And I would guess, I don't know Kayla personally, but it sounds like she's probably at the start of her career as opposed to in the middle or towards the end.
Sure.
And probably that comfort behind the mic, when you get the red light syndrome, everything tenses up, your shoulders clench up.
Yeah.
I think as soon as that becomes much more normal, and she can normalize just being in front of a microphone and delivering, that'll help.
You do get better. You do get better. And obviously she's putting this out, so people are going to listen to it, so you're like, I want to do my best. And it was her best. It was, hey, you did a great job on that.
Yeah.
Like anyone, whether it's you or any talent we work with, here's direction. Here are the notes. That's what you're living for, some notes. Give me some feedback.
Yeah. And from a technical standpoint, it was roomy. You could hear the room. It didn't sound like you're standing in front of a mic in a treated space.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a lot of space between the lines, and if you've got to think about it from the perspective of the person casting, if they're trying to bash out 30, 40 listens, if you've got this huge, great room sound of 2 seconds between each line, they're going to lose patience real quick.
They knock you out.
And also watch out for the 100% versus 100% thing as well.
Don't forget.
Yeah.
Hey, how about Peter Miller? Peter Miller, please, Sam.
Peter Miller. This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch, your biggest fan, and most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% green and filler-free. Fresh Feast.
Yeah, well, that's a good read. Obviously, if Peter did a good job there. If the client's looking for a little more mature sound, which they might, they might go for that. He had a little variation in the 3 key phrases. Perfect pooch, biggest fan, loyal friend. He did a nice job there. The pace, he kept up his pace, which was good. He posed the question, why not give them the very best? It was like, okay, I followed him along. The read, obviously, I think Peter's had some decent experience. For me, again, like, he probably doesn't exactly fit the spec, but obviously this is just a process here today.
Yeah.
But I would definitely look at him and be like, okay, there's some other copy that I would put you on, whether it's like political spots or, there's plenty of spots like when I hurt my knee, or like, when I had my heart attack, all those spots.
Mesothelioma.
Yeah, right. So you need gentlemen and women to be in those categories. So to me, that was a good read.
Do you think he could pull this style out of the bag?
Oh yeah. If the spec was like, hey, you know what, we really want to go. This version is the, with love to him, senior spot. We're not going to put a 25-year-old woman on it. We're going to have imagery that matches, 50 and above Americans.
Yeah.
And then his voice would be like, would fit right in there.
If he added a bit more smile to this read,
it's just a little more smile, a little more like, come on, that sort of like, senior guy, like, it's great, when I'm with my grandkid, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of that missing, particularly at the top, because again, like, it's the first thing they hear, and you don't want it to come out of the box and it's like, he's a little old.
Yeah.
You want to come out of the box and be like, oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then as you followed along in Peter's read, it got better and better. So, you want to grab it right at the front.
It was super slick. I mean, I can definitely see if you're listening and you're hearing a lot of millennial type reads, then something like that will be like, oh no, that's a different angle that we can go down. Yeah,
somebody might go for that.
Yeah.
How about Billy Michaels?
Billy Michaels. This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch, your biggest fan, and most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler free. Fresh Feast.
Again, nice read. Did you have a comment, Sam? Do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I think if he had allowed himself some ability to express himself more, I think he could have landed it. He was a little fast, but that's not hard to correct if he were to get the job. Let's just say theoretically he got the job. We could correct that.
Right.
But it's almost as if he was maybe in a place where he couldn't get his volume up. It's like if he was around people and he had to kind of rush this audition out.
Right.
You know, it definitely sounded good, but it sounded rushed. Like, hey, I'm going to get this in, but, you know, it wasn't his best. And I think he could have done better on it. But, you know, it wasn't a bad read, but it wasn't his best.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a nice, really nice voice, modern again,
Right.
I think. I completely agree the speed was a problem because if you're sending that to a client, the client's like, why is he rushing through all our important things that we're deeply passionate about? Yeah.
It's too fast for the imagery. That would be my first note. Like, hey, man, great. You're hitting it, but slow it down.
Yeah.
Chill it out a little bit.
Well, like Sam said, slowing it down is a
That's
cinch.
easy.
Yeah.
But in the world of auditioning, and you're not going to get feedback, you're not in a live audition, it'd be like, that guy was good, but he's too fast. You know, that would be, you're leaving yourself open to that easy conclusion.
Yeah.
And any hurdle that stops, you're trying to you're trying to remove hurdles for people to like your read. So, like, that would be something like if you played it back to yourself, if Billy played it back, he might say, like, I was just a little too fast on that.
Yeah.
You know, like, I didn't let the word and most loyal friend match some sort of most loyal friend imagery.
Yeah.
Because it can't just be like, you know, there's the little, you know, there's the somebody picking up a puppy and you hear like, and most loyal friend. You know, it's just like, whoa.
Pick it up, next scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you know, there's real potential in him. Like, you know, that's the type of read where I'd be like, I wish that guy was here.
Yeah.
Or like if I have time, hey, man, you were great, but just slow it down. But I really like where you were coming from.
Great. All right, I think we've got time for 2 more.
2 more sounds good.
Let's do it.
Hey, Sam, could you play Nuha's audition, please?
This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch, your biggest fan and most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler-free. Fresh Feast.
Very interesting voice quality.
Yeah.
Very unique. Very positive about that. Again, you know, obviously it's, again, this exercise doesn't quite match our script. But, you know, I think Nuha went for a sense of fun that was in there. She threw in some affection on some of the lines. So I think this is an example of a talent who really followed the spec well.
Yeah.
Like she took the time to think about it and create something that was interesting. A couple of the guys with the quirky voices really fit well. This was probably a little too sweet for me, like a little too precious. But again, if you know, Nuha was here, we might be able to adjust her away from that. But there are a lot of nice things in that read.
There was no specifics on the script that said that accent was important. So if that's not stated, would an accent, you know, be a problem? Would that be an issue, impediment to you sending something out?
Here at Lotus, we really like to talk about how the American sound has changed. You know, it's not changing; it has changed. And so when we do cast, we cast all ethnicities. We throw in accents because the American, whether it's a little bit of a Spanish accent or an Indian accent, this is part of modern American speech. And I think if you really listen closely to contemporary advertising, you'll hear a variety of accents.
Yeah,
you're not just hearing 30-year-old, you know, Caucasian females. You're not just hearing 55-year-old males.
Yeah,
you know. And I think that's it's an exciting time to be in voiceovers because of that. I think millennials kind of blew that open, that they're open to all sorts of voices, as long as it's interesting and it's following the spec and it somehow grabs an audience. So we look forward to encouraging these different sounds and presenting them to our clients.
Cool. All right, let's do the final one.
Last but not least, sorry we couldn't get to them all, but let's wrap it up with...
We've motored on through quite a few.
Craig Williams.
Craig Williams. Oh, I think he's another Brit.
Another Brit? Forget it. He's out. I take back everything I said.
It's Craig.
Craig Williams, Fresh Feast. This little bundle of joy is your whole world. The perfect pooch, your biggest fan, and most loyal friend. So why not give them the very best? Whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients, is super healthy, and tastes delicious. It's also 100% grain and filler-free. Fresh Feast.
All right. Well, again, Craig shows a lot of experience.
Yeah.
Nice professional read. One thing we didn't touch on is when you look at that line, whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made of all natural ingredients. Craig kind of approached it, but no one really nailed the idea like, hey, this is the food part. This is the part that has to be delicious.
Yeah.
And if you listen, whatever advertising you're listening to, whether it's health and beauty and it's about glamour or if it's about food, there's always a sequence where you have to sell the food.
Yeah.
It has to be delicious. So whether it's meat or fish, each recipe is made from all natural ingredients. There's just a rhythm that you hear people hit or a style that they go into. And Craig was trying to do it, which was important. And just as a general note, not everyone kind of got in. No one really got into that the right way. It's almost like, whoa, here's the big line. I'm just going to get through it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's right. You see the two lines.
Right.
And you're like,
there's also a moment, as you know, especially with young people when they're looking at scripts, they're like, oh, I'm almost at the end. I'm going to be done. You can hear that like, hey, you didn't drive through the line and you got like, hey, it's all 100% grain and filler-free. And then you come up for a Fresh Feast, like Craig didn't do that, but it's just sort of a hurdle that younger talents bump into. It's you have to drive through the line. Again, the writer, he or she wrote it. Every word's important to that person, so you want to make sure each word's in there. And Craig did a nice read.
And those, looking at the script, whether it's meat, ... or fish,
right?
That's how it's written on the script for everyone who can't see it.
Yes.
Suggests there's going to be a visual. I would assume there would be a visual for meat, ...
Right.
and fish.
And they're equally delicious.
Yeah.
So it's not like one product's better than the other.
So I would read that as if whether it's meat or fish,
right.
Like it really punches both.
Yeah, because you're going to see both.
Yeah.
And you're going to see dogs reacting. Obviously the dog's going to be like, yay, great, I'm about to eat. So you have to kind of, again, put that visual in your mind and it'll help lead your read to connect to that visual.
Yeah.
This has been fun.
It has been.
Jamie. Great. It's auditioning is a very important part of the business. It's the main part of the business. But casting is always fun because it gives us the opportunity to meet new people, listen to new sounds. So I really enjoyed this podcast. It was a good one.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone's going to get a huge amount out of this because you don't often get to hear the whole process.
Right.
As you say, you do this day in, day out. This is this is normal for you. Thank you to everyone who submitted for this. It's very brave of you. And everyone did a great job. So, yeah, thanks to everyone. Thanks to you, Jim. Thanks to you, Sam. Thanks to Marion in the office.
Of course.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you, Jamie. Always a pleasure.
So there we are. Thank you to Jim and Sam for their time and expertise going through all of those reads. We got through about half of the ones that were submitted. And speaking of which, thank you to everyone that sent over your reads. I'm so sorry we didn't get to everyone. We actually got to more than I thought we would. It was a completely random process for choosing the reads, so please don't take it negatively if you weren't chosen. It was Jim taking pieces of paper out of a box. So it was totally random. So I hope you got a lot out of that. I know I did. That was a really, really interesting perspective and one that you don't see or hear about very often. So I hope that helped. Okay, so have a good week and I'll see you next time. Thanks very much. Bye. Thank you to this week's guests, to our sponsor J. Michael Collins and Backstage Magazine. Thanks also to Kyle Marie Colucci and Chris Sharps for social media support. Join us next time for another class.